Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 80 of the Hideout, our weekly spaces where we will be discussing gaming, the metaverse, and the blockchain, and how they interconnect with another great panel of guests. So we'll start with some housekeeping items and some introductions. Usually we have people trickling in, so we'll make some of these announcements a couple times, but to start, my name is Nick Frontera. For those of you who don't know me, I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind Satoshiverse and the Legion's 2029 game. We've been developing Satoshiverse for going on 4 years now as a blockchain-themed superhero and gaming universe. Our flagship game is called Legion's 2029. It is a hybrid between a hack and slash game inspired by God of War with roguelike gameplay loop and RPG mechanics. And rather than spending 15 minutes talking about what all that means, I definitely invite you guys to check out the game. It is free to play, free to download. We are currently in an open community testing phase, which means that you can play the game. There's 2 ways to download it. And you can start earning items. We've got a bunch of leaderboard contests going on where you can get USDC for placing at the top of our speed runs. Lots of cool stuff going on. You can find all the information in the tweet that I pinned at the top of the spaces. So if you haven't given the game a try yet, definitely try it out. Give us our feedback. We've been working on that, or give us some feedback that we've been working on it for about 2.5 years now. And we're actively incorporating, community feedback into the game as we continue to develop it. So, try it out. What we'll do now is we're going to jump over and do some quick introductions for our awesome panelists, and then we will go into our questions for the day. So why don't we start with Todd at Adult Fantasy? How you been? Everything good?
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Good to talk to you again, brother.
You too, man. Good to hear a familiar voice.
For sure.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys are building. Sorry, I probably should have let in a bit more. Tell us a bit about what you're building. Tell us about who you are, how you got involved in all this, and what you guys are
Oh,
building in adult fantasy.
yeah, man. So, my background, the quick TLDR on my background is, I started off as an animation director for Cartoon Network back in the day. So we're talking mid '90s, late '90s, early 2000s. Was at Cartoon Network, was at Adult Swim, did a lot of stuff, like all over that network. So if you ever watched a cartoon or a commercial, I probably had something to do with it because there was just hundreds and hundreds of spots. Um, uh, did a lot of things, started my own companies, did a lot of animation, worked at Saturday Night Live, and then ended up working with Marvel, like at the HQ. So I had the chance to work with Stan Lee on some of my own projects for Marvel. Yeah, I've been building for quite a long time. Jumped into Web3. I became Web3 curious, like actually started looking at the stuff probably in 2020, and we launched our first project, which is Adult Fantasy, our only project in 2021. And since then we've been building. Adult Fantasy is essentially, the direction in which we think the future of entertainment is going to be going, which is in the hands of the individual creator. So we look at what's happening with the entertainment space, with all the major studios and all of the lack of ingenuity, the lack of creativity, and just the fact that they have too many things blocking them from being creative. Even if they wanted to be creative, they can't really do anything now, just for different reasons, a lot of red tape. And so we think Web3 is the future. And, you combine that with crypto and AI and all these tools that are coming out, and all the people coming into the space. And we think the future is even a step further from like the YouTube creator. We think things like, Mr. Beast is kind of like the grandfather of this, like kind of leading the way, right? And in his own way, even someone like a Justin Bieber who kind of blew up on YouTube and then became a quote unquote mainstream hit, whatever. We think that's the future. We think that the tools, being able to make a huge IP, a huge blockbuster movie, a huge anime, a comic series, your toy series, whatever it is that you want to do, is the tools are going to make it such that it's not going to be a problem to create. It's really going to come down to the person creating it and the audience and the network that they can build. So that's what we're building at Adult Fantasy. We have our own properties. We've got a bunch of characters that we've created. Been doing this like 30 years. So we're expanding that into comics and animation and toys. And then we also build tools for other Web3 companies to use. We're working with a company right now called Wagme Games, who's been using our lore game system to build their universe. And we've got some other people on deck as well. So it's kind of a universe of tools for storytelling and protocols for Web3 IP development and utilizing those tools to build our own universe.
Amazing. Well, really excited to have you to dive into some of this stuff a little bit further. I was actually just on a panel, really, really great event that Decentraland put on for their game expo, and we were talking specifically about gaming and creators and how NFTs were powering creators and holders in the gaming space. But similar sentiment, and I feel very much the same way that we by taking it down a few levels and allowing creators to actually express themselves, I think Web3 creates kind of the economic infrastructure to do that. And I do think we're going to see with AI, and then this will probably be a rabbit hole that we could dive down a little bit later. But with AI, we're going to see just capabilities being more, single creator focused or smaller team focused and really enabling people to do some awesome stuff. So I think the combination, we could see some really interesting new concepts that never would have made it through that red tape before. So really excited about what you guys are doing. Really, just it's fun to see people who have been in the space for a long time and continue building. As someone who has ridden that roller coaster, I enjoy being able to check in every once in a while. People mix it.
We're still here. We still got it, man. We can do this.
Exactly, man.
We can do this. We're still here.
We still wake up every day, have our cup of coffee, and go Web3, baby. Let's do it.
That's right, man.
No, it's been a fun ride, and looking forward to talking more about where it's all going. All right, let's hop over to Taco Studios. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're building and yourself?
Sure, and thank you for having me. I'm Nico. I'm the CMO at Taco Studios, and yes, I liked, of course, the couple of coffees, and then having the face to face every day with the Web3 world, and it's what we do since 2021, and we are a Web3 gaming publisher, and we published already 3 games on Wax Chain. And now we publish the 4th one, Monster Rooms, on Solana. So we are a cross-chain gaming publisher. And yes, since 2021, we have worked a lot on releasing gaming titles because we think that the way to differentiate us from all the other companies was actually releasing the game and trying to provide a fun experience. And that's why even it was a tough market, we have a big community behind us, and every time that we release a new game, they're always ready to support and be the first beta tester, meme creators, FOMO generators, and it's something that, of course, it's super important, and we built this community since 2021, step by step, in the good days, in the bad days, and it's great to arrive at a point in which you can come to a Twitter space and say, yes, we have 3 gaming titles. We are at season 6, 7, 8 of multiple games, and because it's cool, and it's something that we think that a Web3 gaming publisher should do. And yes, so we're based in Italy, just to give you some more context and information. And yes, now we are a team of 15 to 20 people. So it's good because it helps us, to keep on releasing. We have a lot in store for 2024 and 2025. We're going to release a lot of more games, but now the main focus is to release the demo of Monster Rooms, which will be a mobile-only game on Solana.
Well, I love it. That's awesome to hear, and I largely, I agree. I think on so many fronts, sometimes it's just about getting something interesting to market and maybe putting some of the Web3 nuances aside, and just building something that's interesting and fun and something that resonates with the community. I think the other point you touched on, just about the fandom that happens in Web3, I think that's uniquely something that I've experienced in this space, is that, you can have a brand new IP or even a concept for an IP. We for a long time just had a pretty simple draft of what we wanted our lore to be, and people really start to connect with the IP. They get invested. They want that IP to succeed. They feel part of it, and they are part of it. And I think that's what's truly special about being able to build at this scale with our communities and the dynamics, is that we're able to kind of take all that feedback and create something that the people actually want, with that direct relationship. And I know, speaking from my experience, there's definitely challenges in managing communities, but when you see the people that have been there from the start and have supported and continue to support through, slow and fast times, I think that makes it, all the better to, keep doing it and to keep pushing and to see, okay, there's something here that we can build on, and that could become, the future of how we experience things digitally and have digital economies and build digitally. So really excited to have you guys on as well. We'll definitely dive into some of those topics a bit more soon. But there is one thing I forgot to mention, and you mentioned having some games published. I would encourage you guys, if you have videos or cool content, please do feel free to pin it to the top of the spaces. I'm a big believer in, we can talk about these things forever, but sometimes a video, the gameplay or a trailer or, a thread is the most useful thing to help people see what you guys are building. So feel free to pin it to the top of the spaces. But in the meantime, let's go over to Spencer, who will be hosting us on the spaces, and will give us a few other housekeeping things and then take us into the questions.
Thank you, Nick. What is going on, everyone? My name is Spencer Vogel. I am the Business Development Manager with Apollo Entertainment and with the Satoshiverse. So as Nick said, I will be asking the questions for the space today and some of the housekeeping items. So real quick right now, I'm going to pin a tweet to the top of the space. So we are doing a giveaway, which we do every week on our space, where you're going to be able to win 5 Satoshi's crystals, which is the main in-game resource in Satoshiverse, which is what you use to upgrade your characters and your items. So all you have to do to be entered to win 5 Satoshi's crystals is be in the space until the end, and then also give that tweet that I just pinned at the top, which says "We're live." Give that a repost, and that'll be all you need to do to be eligible. Awesome. So then moving on to the actual format. So going to start out with a question for the group. I'll call on someone to start, and then feel free to just jump into discussion from there. Then we'll move into some individual questions and then some more group questions at the end. And then just a final note as well. If you're joining us for the first time, please give the Hideout account that I'm talking from right now. Please give that a follow. We're trying to grow this account and really trying to focus on building up the brand for the Hideout. So I would really appreciate that. Well, awesome. Let's get into it. So first question, and maybe Todd, you could start us out with this one. But what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing the Metaverse and Web3 gaming industry today?
Yeah, I love this question. Because I think I might be able to offer a little bit of value on it and a little bit of a unique perspective. I guess because I've been doing like character development and IP and branding for 30 years for these groups, honestly, like the number one problem that I see in our sphere of things is, well, let me start with a positive. Like we have more creativity in this space than anywhere else, period. Like Web3, the founders, I've talked to hundreds of founders, and there's so many good people in the space and so many smart people in the space and some straight up geniuses in the space. I think the big problem though comes when a lot of us are primarily builders first, meaning we tend to live by that, build it, and they will come mentality. And with the Web3 space, especially with what we're talking about with sort of the pop culture side, whether it's gaming or whether it's comics or animation or and anything like that, the problem is that when you're designing an IP, when you're trying to build something that's going to be here for a long time, the most important thing you can do is start with a story foundation. So before you make your game, before you make your comic, before you make your anime, before you make your film or your whatever it is, you need to have that story foundation for the universe. It's a huge, huge mistake to launch the product first and then say, we'll figure the story out later. There's some incredible blue chip projects in Web3 that happened in 2021. I'm a part of a lot of them. Some of these guys raised tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. And what's happening is that they're struggling because they launched without a story in mind, without a foundation in mind of what this universe was, who these characters were, what this thing was about. And they kind of hit a jackpot and that it got really popular really fast. And now they're spending like tens or hundreds of millions of dollars trying to backtrack to figure out how everything fits together. And that's really, really hard to do. It's damn near impossible, which is, I think, why you see a lot of companies going through some growing pains. So if you're just starting out, or if you're looking to build a universe, or if you're looking to like jump into Web3 with this, like it doesn't matter what you're doing, come up, even if it's not that great, it doesn't matter. Like you need to come up with a foundation and a story that ties through your product line. Otherwise, it's gonna bite you in the ass later on. Especially if you're popular and you've hit success, everybody's gonna ask you what your character's about, what the story's about, what else is coming out, how's everything tied together? Is it a big unified universe? Da, 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 da. And you're gonna be like, I don't even know because we didn't think about it. We just launched some shit. So you really gotta think about this shit in advance and sit down. And it doesn't matter if it takes weeks or months. You have to figure this out early and at the jump. And if you do that, you're going to set yourself up for success. You can always change the story. It doesn't mean you have to be Shakespeare or it doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to put pen to paper and kind of figure out how this stuff is going to tie together. Otherwise, you're going to run into some big problems down the road, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. That was definitely part of our philosophy, and I've seen the same thing happen, like you said, with blue chip projects. And, I think the story elements and having a roadmap, and kind of a cohesive approach really also helps tell the community members that you're taking this seriously and that this is your main thing, right? And I think that part of it is that it's not easy to do those things. It's not easy to architect what your universe will look like. It's not easy to figure out how things are going to play out in the next year and at least have some strategy for the long term. And I agree. I mean, we saw very loose let's say universes and very loose roadmaps, and sometimes people embrace the we don't have a roadmap approach, which was a theme, I think, back in the boom. But we also don't see a lot of those projects around anymore, and I think that it's a shame, honestly, with the amount of money that went into those projects, that we didn't see some major cool things come from them. And I've always been, a proponent of, you know, I love to support the successes in the space, even when they don't make sense to me. But then, okay, like, great, you sold an NFT collection. Now do something, right? Like, what are we going to do here? How are you going to move the space forward? Because we need that. We need those big money investments to bring the eyeballs, to bring the people. And so, yeah, I mean, I think actually that ties into what I would think is one of the bigger challenges here is user acquisition, right? The tech has gotten better, but not perfect, right? Far from it. There's still all sorts of roadblocks with blockchain, although, definite improvements over the last year, largely thanks to gaming infrastructure. Honestly, we're seeing a lot of the biggest improvements in like the speed of blockchains, account abstraction, custodial wallet situations, all this infrastructure being built to simply, smooth out the user experience when interacting with blockchains, largely because, gamers are pretty harsh critics, and we're building for them. And so these things have to be, we're no longer in that space where people are willing to jump through 15 hoops to enter a contract address on Etherscan so that they might get a whitelist spot for, a PFP collection because there might be some money
Right,
at the end
yeah.
of the rainbow, right? I think we're past that
Right.
point now, and it's got to be something that's can stand on its own 2 feet. And, I think that's tough. I think that's tough. And I think, you have great creators who, like you said, they're, sometimes it's you need a little bit of both, right? You need that experience of how to actually take something to market. And I think there's challenges there. You have great ideas that maybe could benefit from some go-to-market strategy. And then you have some expert marketers who are just, jumping on whatever the next train passes is and making a lot of money, but then not necessarily, sticking with a project long term. So you kind of have, I think, both extremes. But from a user acquisition perspective, I think for me, we have had some instances where projects do a really great job, at least in the gaming space, of engaging a Web3 population and motivating them to get involved and capturing, a great amount of market share of the existing Web3 community. And we saw that those numbers could get big and the revenue numbers attached to them could get big during the last bull market. But I haven't yet seen, at least in the gaming space, projects really captivate the Web2 and the traditional gaming population. And I think that, there's reasons for that. And we saw it in the NFT space, right? When we saw what were the biggest hits in the NFT space from transactions and user perspectives, most of them were not Web3 native projects. I mean, the one that really, really set off everything was NBA Top Shot, right? Which was a very big traditional Web2 brand using Web3 in a way that most of it was back-ended. In fact, in the early days, it wasn't even really on the blockchain, but it was a tool that they were using to sell a product that people wanted anyways, right? And so they motivated the Web3 side, they motivated the Web2 side, and it was a huge success for the time it lasted. You've seen, Vivi do something similar with digital collectibles and start to engage people who wouldn't have been otherwise engaged. But what were they selling? They were selling, Marvel and DC or comic books, that people could read and look through and own in different ways and then trade. And so it was a kind of, again, a familiar concept, right? I guess where I'm going with this is that it feels like one of our biggest challenges is convincing traditional Web3 developers and brands to embrace the technology in a way that it makes sense for the product that they're releasing, because we've seen some companies try to force it in, right? And it didn't work. There were a couple bigger games that said, you know what, this skin is going to be an NFT, and then people were jumping through hoops and it didn't work, right? What we need to see is these companies really embrace it and say, you know what, we're not going to do this as like a little gimmicky thing on the side. We're actually going to understand the stack and learn how to incorporate it and build all the UX and UI, type of functionality. And then I think we're going to start to see people get comfortable with the idea of, oh, there is a value prop here, right? Ownership does mean something, right? There is the ability to empower creators with UGC in an ownable way. There's lots of things we can do here that we couldn't do before. And I think once we start to see that at scale, we're gonna be in a different place. But I think that realistically is gonna start with the people who are experts at building the games and taking them to market. And I think that can be applied really to any, part of the Web3 industry.
Yeah, totally agree.
I agree with you both on the storytelling side and of course, having the goal of attracting Web2 gamers, classic Web2 gamers, and to let them understand how cool is the Web3 environment by, of course, having fun games and accessible games. And I want to start from this last point. For example, we found very good the chain which we are on, which is Wax, because it's a bit like an overlooked chain, but it allows you to make multiple transactions. So, for example, a lot of users that we have, or community members, players, depending on what they're interacting with, can sign on our smart contracts more than 100 transactions per day if they want, because it's gasless. So it allowed us to create products that could have a pace that is similar to normal products. So it was very, very good, for example, on our side. And of course, I couldn't agree more on the fact that the game must be fun, must be engaging, and it has to resemble a classic game that can compete even in the Web2 market. It's very important, because otherwise it would be, in the long run, it would be a problem, even though you can get great traction in the beginning, but then you will definitely slow down, because of course games must be very competitive on the engagement side, and this is the most difficult part, of course. And for what regards the storytelling, the metaverse storytelling phase for each game, but also, like, the whole metaverse that you're trying to build, it's I couldn't agree more, and it's fun, because I'm coming from a meeting with other 5 team members in which we are building a GDD of a new game, and of course fine tuning the lore pieces that we want to of course have shown in the GDD, and then of course in the game itself. But the fun fact is that it's linked to what we've done in early 2022. So, and in Web3, of course, early 2022 is like, I don't know, 10 years ago. So it's, it's something that is very cool, because we built the foundation, and having the possibility of now building a new GDD that is consequence of what we built in 2022, but new. It's super cool, and it means that we have done some good stuff. Of course, there might be some retcons or things like that, but no, jokes apart, it's definitely very cool, and why I agree a lot with what you both said. But in just to add my 2 cents, I'm really focused on the usability and the engagement part. So you must be competitive on that side, and that's why, for example, with Monster Rooms, we wanted to have it only mobile, an only mobile game, because we want to have that feel in which you can interact multiple times with the game very fast. And you, for example, from the tutorial, you have those 3, 4, 5 minutes in which you do a bit of everything, and then after 5 minutes, you just raise your head and say, okay, now I've done everything. Am I in target to play this game, or I am not? And then we want to have this feel with the game, because I find that the best games have always this 5 minutes, 6, 7 minutes entrance, in which they explain you what you can do, and also interact actively with all the game features, and then bam, the player decides, it's for me, it's not for me. And of course it's difficult to do something like that, but I think that it's an experiment that we wanted to do badly, and of course with Monsters we will be able to do this. So I'm very excited, and of course then, yeah, the game must be fun, and must be you have to choose to play that game over hundreds and hundreds of fantastic gaming titles. So it must be good. It must be good. So we're very focused on that side at the moment.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. We will move on to the individual questions here. So the first one is to Todd. So you guys at Adult Fantasy have been recently collaborating with WAGMI Games, which you talked about a little bit in the intro. specifically on a comic, and maybe get into some more details about some of the things that you're actually doing. But, kind of on top of that, why do you think comics in general are an effective storytelling tool for gaming?
Yeah, honestly, like it's really simple. One good story is worth $1 billion, right? Like one good story can build an industry, right? Like you look at Star Wars or you look at Harry Potter, right? I mean, with comics, you certainly can look at several good stories, and you have the MCU. And honestly, even over in Japan, if you look at the manga industry, it's pretty phenomenal that just putting pen to paper and putting those stories into a pamphlet form, those can make more than any big Hollywood blockbuster movie, right? In fact, some of the artists and creators make more than some of the entire ticket sales that a lot of Hollywood blockbusters make. Like the difference is staggering. So a a good story pushed into a physical product that's fairly simple to consume over continued time. The brilliance about comics specifically as an art form is that because it's a sequential story, so you get your fix, you get an actual chunk of story, and if you have a creative team that can deliver even pieces of that on a regular recurring basis, even if you can't do a monthly book, you could do a page a week or a page every other week or whatever. Like once you have something on a regular recurring basis, that gives something for people to latch onto and talk about and really dive into. And people get attached to these things just like you get attached to your favorite live streaming show or your favorite episode. Like, there's 5 seasons of this show. Like we're going to watch it all. We're going to binge it all. Well, you get attached to these characters. And so from my standpoint, comics on the surface is lo-fi, fairly simple to produce. It's just pen and ink on paper. But it has the potential to reach as many people as you possibly can think of, especially when you think of digital downloads and everything on the internet, right? And then in terms of collaboration, we partnered up with Wagme Games, just an absolute fantastic team. They're doing a lot of stuff in mobile gaming, and they share a lot of our values in terms of how they view the evolution of a character-based universe. And they liked what we were doing, and they brought us in to help them craft story and craft the foundation of their universe and tie it into their games. And part of that partnership was doing one of their comics, and it's fantastic, and I'm very proud of it. And it honestly, like, it really just ties back to what we were talking about before, where in terms of one of the biggest challenges that people have, one of the things that we're solving through partnerships and through doing these stories with comics is that when you're looking to build an IP that's longstanding and it's going to stand the test of time over decades, I think there's a miscalculation that people make often. That is, we got to go really big, really fast, really hard, really like right now. And there's certainly people that can do that, right? Like there's nothing wrong with going all out and just making a ton of shit and pushing it out. But you can't forget that longevity is really based on like a death by 1,000 cuts mentality. And what I mean by that is that the audience member, there's a person comes to your IP, they come to your property, they come to your brand. Really, it's this weird psychological thing where it's their idea, but it's really not their idea, right? Like, most people get exposed to your property or to your project or to the thing that you're making through friends, through word of mouth, maybe they see it on social media. And then eventually one day they have the idea to say, you know what, I've seen this round, I'm actually going to give it a shot. And then they fall in love or they don't, right? But it has to be their idea to discover your stuff. And that's why just throwing it out in front of people so much, so often, it can help, but it's trying to force an issue that is a very somewhat natural progression. And so that's why these things take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time for saturation. And so things like doing comics, these small things that you can put out there to develop the story, to get people interested in your world, or doing collaborations with other projects, other companies to especially like-minded people where you can share the promotion and share the reward and share all the stuff. Like, these things help to slowly elevate you in the minds of a larger community, right? Like, and you guys know this, like, I don't know, we came in at like 2021, and I remember going to NFT NYC that year, and like, you know, I think like we had, even though our Discord was big and booming at that point, like, I don't know, I think maybe I met one or two people, maybe, I don't remember, like definitely less than half a dozen, like I'm going to say 5 people I met that knew who we were and were like, oh my God, adult fantasy, that's really cool. And over time, now that it's been like 2+ years of doing this every day and going into communities and talking to founders and helping other founders out, connecting people to whatever I can as a founder to help other founders in other communities. Now that's starting to grow quite a bit, where it goes to this phase of like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of you guys. Yeah, I know the name from somewhere, right? Like, and it's just this slow little, it's a slow and steady chipping away at sort of the cultural zeitgeist until you just are kind of everywhere and people just naturally assume that you've always been there. And so I think things like comics are brilliant for that. There's a history of it. For me personally, I'm super jaded because I absolutely love the medium. Like comics, I think is one of the most important mediums we have as an art form. It's definitely one of the most important American art forms. And then on the other flip side of that, with collaborations, especially with like Wagon Games or others, it's a way for us to slowly chip at that zeitgeist to where over the course of 5, 10, 15 years, it's going to just be like, man, these guys have always been here and they're always doing stuff with people. And, you know, I think a rising tide lifts all boats. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah, we were very big believers in the, rising tides lift all ships. And, we love collaborating with, projects like you guys and also Wagme Games, and big fans of all the things that you guys are building. And, very excited to see the comic. I mean, how is the comic actually being, released? Is it being released as an NFT?
Well, I can't completely divulge that stuff, but I will say the comic, we finished the comic. It looks like it's gotten really good feedback. So I'm really, the artist, I'm actually pretty happy with it. I think they're going to be doing a drop, later, like, I don't know, later this year for sure. Like, I don't want to get too specific. But yeah, I hope to see it in digital, and I personally hope to see it in print too. So for sure.
Love it. Well, appreciate the small amount of alpha that you're able to give us.
It's so hard, dude.
I get it.
Talk to me in the green room, brother.
We'll talk after. Awesome. All right. Well, the next individual question here is going to be for Taco Studios. So, the games that Taco Studios develops have a big focus on utility. So what kinds of utility do you think, is effective in gaming outside of just the gameplay value of the assets used to play the game?
Thanks for the question. Let me start from the last game that we released. That is the least game for the moment, because of course we haven't released the demo yet, but it has already a ton of utility, which is Monster Rooms. At the moment, Monster Rooms is a collection of 1800 PFPs that we dropped on Magic Eden on May the 10th for 0.7 Sol. I think now the floor is 1.2, something like this. But put aside the fact that the PFPs are very cool because all of them are handcrafted. We have designed all the 160 different bases that we have for the PFPs, and they are 160 different monsters designed by us and animated by us. So you will see, if you go to the Monster Rooms page, for example, on Magic Eden, you can see all the different animations that have been done by our team of designers. Given the fact that they are very cool, but this is not utility, immediately after the drop, we started to give multiple perks to the holders, and we are still giving multiple perks to the PFP holders of Monster Rooms. For example, they have been airdropped 5 different meme coins at the moment, and some of which also airdrop a large number of tokens. But for example, the Monstrums PFPs will be playable in a game which is called Elementerra, and they will mine their token, for example. Other perks that we have done, for example, is that the main contributors within the drop should have, stake their PFPs and collected a certain amount of points. And after a certain amount of points, they will be featured within the game. So Monstrums is a monster collectible game in which you have to refurbish your room with different items, which have a lot of, recall a lot of pop culture and things like this. And all those who collected a certain amount of point will have their own mythic item designed, and it will be airdropped to them and playable within the game. So to connect with what we said at the beginning of the show, that community must be involved in what you do, and this is great, because of course right now we are designing the branded items, the items branded after our members, top members of the community. So they will have their playable item that will resemble them, or their profile picture, or their Discord handle, or something that they like. It will be super cool. And this is another utility that we are giving them. But the main utility is that all our games are somehow connected. You can play one of our games and without even caring or knowing that the other are existing, but at the same time they are connected. So for example, today we airdropped a custom deck branded after Monstrums, so a card deck which has all the monsters of Monstrums, their items, the potions and things like that, but is playable in our dungeon card game. So by applying it, they will play with the Acryptia game, which has a complete different standard deck, but with a custom deck, which is completely branded after Monstrums. So you will have the feel of playing Monstrums with Acryptia, which is our dungeon crawler game. And it's super cool because we use the PFP, the PFP holders received the airdrop of this NFT that is playable in another game. Other thing is that, for example, in the Acryptia Season Pass, you are able to get resources of our resource management game, which is Comms. So everything is connected, and this creates what we call utility. So, for example, a custom deck is not that you are finishing the tasks faster or things like that, but it's vanity, but it's a cool way of having something that is a vanity, and it's super, and players are super interested in this. So, for example, players that have played 5 seasons of Acryptia with the standard deck now have another deck in which way they can play and have the feel that the game is newer, is cooler, and it's linked to Monstrums, to the game, that the upcoming game that is coming. So they want to be involved and have the feeling of Monstrums in this moment. So this is the way that we give utility to our games, connecting them, and of course making partnerships with other good projects around. So Monstrums is, we haven't released it yet, but it's probably one of the games that our games that already has more utility given, and more utility that we are going to give, because there is this mining on Elementerra for the Monstrums PFP holders, but also there is, for example, another huge airdrop of tokens. We are going to airdrop 10 billion WOOF, which is a big meme coin, and we're going to drop it in July, but we are already in talks with other 4, 5, 6 projects that would like, to connect with our community and airdrop some tokens to our community, NFTs, giving whitelists, and this creates utility. So the moment in which we released the PFP collection was actually the very beginning of Monstrums, and there was a lot of work before releasing the PFPs, but still when you drop it on mint day, this is the beginning, because after that you have to create ton of utility, not for the months that are coming, but for the years that are coming. And in having multiple games and having multiple games coming, makes it easier for us to, create links and utility between all our games.
Yeah, I think, I agree entirely with that approach, and it's something that we've been focused on as well. I think that, as a publisher, specifically a Web3 publisher, there's just so much incentive to make interconnected experiences, especially using Web3 technology to do that, because it is one of the things that you can do in Web3 that in traditional games may have been a little bit more difficult. I mean, we've seen, Web2 publishers dabble in this a little bit. You see maybe Blizzard having a World of Warcraft skin in Diablo or vice versa, which is, just scratching the surface of how this could really evolve, right? And so, I think it starts with doing it within your own ecosystem. And then, like you said, I think we're going to get to a point where we have these standards for interoperability that allow much deeper collaboration through kind of this infrastructure that we've established through the blockchain, where you can authenticate community holders, you can, narrow perks down to a select portion of a community, for example. I think that's going to open the doors for some really great collaborations. And, maybe you guys are creating a casual game and we're creating, kind of a more higher fidelity type of experience. And they both have their merits and they both have their audiences, and there may be some overlap. So the ability for me to say, hey, if your community comes and plays this game, if they play Legions 2029, they're going to have a really cool skin that they can use. And beyond that, we have a speedrun leaderboard. Maybe we can know, okay, if your community mints an avatar with that skin or uses that skin and sets a high score on the leaderboard, then they could win a portion of your token. But hey, in order to qualify for this, I can independently verify that these are our community members. So now I think blockchain gives you the ability to incentivize utility for your community outside of your community. And there's, kind of the reverse incentive for me as a project that wants to introduce, new people to it, to create those sorts of incentives. So I think that this is actually going to be one of the things we see much more in this coming year, especially if we start to see more of a boom in Web3 experiences. I think there's going to be just this natural incentive to collaborate, just given the size of the space. And I do think there's really great vehicles to do it. And it's funny you mentioned meme coins, because I think meme coins are like the ultimate, low-hanging fruit for this sort of thing, right? We're all here spending years building utility for a project, and most meme coins, they're launched overnight, but they're really good at building a community around these tokens that otherwise are just an ERC20 token that takes a couple days, to release, but they build, community. They build people who are passionate about an IP. So you talk about communities and kind of intermingling. There's kind of a match made in heaven for these meme coin communities to then be able to find utility in other projects and have this token that they ascribe value to. Maybe I don't, right? Maybe people in our community don't, but that community obviously does. Now that token, which I'm sure there's, reserves of or big holders that would be motivated, can be used as an incentivization tool to get them to try the new game, but also, as something that, wow, we were just a meme coin before and built a cool community. Now, if you're a holder of this meme coin, you can play this game and earn more of it. You can play that game and earn more of it. You can play that game and earn more of it. And so I think this model, we're going to start to see more and more of it. We are already starting to see it from the protocols who are, offering rewards in their native token for people, playing games that are on that protocol. And I think the extension to projects is very easy, right? And I think as tech gets better, it'll be even more meaningful. So I'm definitely looking forward to the day when it's pretty simple for us to bring in, one of your avatars as a skin into our game and let people run around as it and say, not only do they run around as it, but if those people, set a high score, they're going to get something special. Or, only if you're using this avatar can you unlock this particular item skin that then you can use. And I think that's where rubber really meets the road on Web3 games, because we're all referencing the same database. And I think, or a series of them. Right now there's 100 blockchains, so I can't confidently say we're all looking at the same ones, but we're looking at the same basket of them, and we can look at the same ones. So I think that's so important. I think we've barely scratched the surface on our ability to provide utility as a group of projects with similar interests and incentives.
Yeah, 100%, man. Couldn't agree more.
Totally agree. I mean, one of my favorite things about Web3 is there's just like a literally unlimited number of things that you can do to provide utility for your holders. Like if you can think of it, you can most likely make it happen, which is really cool. And so yeah, just very excited to see what everybody continues to put their mind to and create. So I think we have time for one more group question here, and maybe Nick, maybe you could start us off on this one, and let's try to keep it somewhat brief, just so we don't have a ton of time. But how can we effectively educate traditional gamers and the broader public about the benefits and mechanics of Web3 gaming?
You want me to be brief? I don't know how to be brief. But
try your best. Concise.
I'll do my best. Yeah. So how do we educate gamers? Well, I think that the way that we educate gamers is in the way that's essentially most familiar with them. Don't tell them, show them, right? Incorporate Web3 into the back end of games in a way that focuses on its value prop, not, shove PFP collections down their throats and say, hey, buy this and you'll get all this cool stuff, right? Gamers aren't stupid. They may be degens, they may, get on Reddit and trash things, but they aren't stupid. These are highly intelligent people who are, a lot of these, spending a lot of time playing games, in their limited free time, right? So I think what you got to do is actually create the product in a way that the Web3 components add value. I think most notably, the peer-to-peer transferability, the ability to use items in different IPs that they already like, and show them, say, hey, this is a Web3 enabled game. You're able to list these on third-party marketplaces, and using the whatever wallet add-on, you can connect your bank account, and anytime you sell it, you can take the money out, right? People will get that. People may not get metadata, NFT, token contract, whitelist. I think all those are archaic terms that we are going to continue to use as a space for a while, but that's not the way that we're going to get traditional gamers. I think if we want traditional gamers, we got to, show them the value, and they'll understand it, because we've tried telling them the value and it hasn't worked. And so I think it's time for us to step it up and do it and show it. And, if we can convince both the gamers and the AAA studios that this is actually something that does provide value, which, I truly believe that it is, that's what's going to move the needle. I don't think any amount of us telling them is going to do that.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. If you had asked me like 2 years ago, I would have given you more of a traditional marketing answer, like, onboarding and educational materials and all this kind of stuff. But I think similar, a couple of things similar to the death by 1,000 cuts, and sort of having this be something that people need to discover for themselves. I think we've already seen an example of how to onboard the masses with Reddit's legendary drop that they did. I don't know, what was it, a year or two ago now? Like, it wasn't necessarily, they didn't dive in. It's not about telling people. It's not about, just like it's not telling people just purely about your project. It is about showing them to, and I completely agree. And I think really what it is, the best way to onboard people, and the way that we will eventually onboard everybody, is to literally not tell them about it. Just make the best game you possibly can, make the best products and services you possibly can. And I promise you, when people realize that your game has the ability to resell or trade the assets that they've already bought in game, their minds will be blown. That's what we saw with Reddit. I mean, all Reddit did was not use the word NFT. They just said, we're a digital collectible, and then they said, well, it's not a wallet. It's a Reddit vault. That was it, man. And that was enough to get like millions of people who, many of whom, if not most of whom, were probably very anti-crypto and Web3, into crypto and Web3. And the minute they discover that they can buy, sell, and trade it, a lot of people are going to become curious and on their own reach out to the educational things. So I think we have educational stuff out there. We certainly need more. There's never enough, right? But I think it's just in the act of providing the thing and then opening people's eyes to like, oh crap, you mean I can trade this? Like it's happened. I don't know about you guys, but like it happened to me, like even with gaming, because I'm in the Web3 space and, I'm playing all these games and I know a lot of people and we're doing our own stuff, like personally, one of the games that I have on my phone that I play a lot when I'm just like, relaxing or something before bed is Marvel Snap. I think it's a great game. The mechanics are fantastic. The art is fantastic. I like a little bit of the strategy. It's lightweight. It's not too complicated. But the problem is like I have zero desire. I will never do an in-game purchase because it means nothing. Like what? Like if that was a Web3 game, I would probably own all of the cards. I'd own all of the characters and have like multiple decks. But there's no reason for me to buy it because I don't own it, and it's just something that sits on my phone. So that older experience of just having that in-game purchase and just having that like centralized on the app, that's already ruined for me because of Web3. I can't go back. You could have me play a game that might not be as good mechanically as Marvel Snap, but the fact that I can buy, sell, and trade through a Web3 mobile game or a Web3 platform or any other game, forget it, dude. There's no comparison. You get beat every time. The traditional games are going to get beat every time because there's all of a sudden a new value proposition for me as the player, which means like, oh, it's not just me wasting my money and downloading something, and when the game goes away, I've lost all my money and that was fun. It's like, oh, even if the game goes away, I'm still going to have these assets, and there's a lot of players, and these things might be collectibles down the road, just like lunch boxes are or anything else nowadays, right? Like the movie's gone and the VHS tape is out, and now VHS tapes are collectible, right? So I think we've invented a new system for collecting and collectability, and I think the way to get people educated on that is just to give it to them in a really cool way, not mention the technology, and let them ask about it, right? Oh, wait, how do I sell this on a market? You guys have a marketplace? How do I do that? Oh, check our facts, right? Like, oh, go check out our docs. And then they're going to start to dive in on their own. And so it's the same thing with it. It's almost like, I really do believe now that the same discovery mechanism is in place for discovering your project as it is to onboard people into Web3. Like just give them the thing, grow the audience slowly, steadily, and with purpose, and let them come forward and make the determination and decision on their own to get educated about the thing that they want to be educated about.
Yes, I agree with you both, and the product comes first, and then the more addictive is your product, the easier the steps that the players have to do after are. So it's, yeah, I have nothing to add. I just completely agree, and yes, the product leads. So whether it's a game or anything about utility, once the product is perfect and has some killing features that allow anyone to interact with them no matter what, then people will do what you're asking them to do, or even on their own. So, and actually, most importantly, on their own. So I completely agree on this.
Yeah, and I know we're out of time, but I'll kind of add just a closing thought on this question, because the question was kind of targeted at what do we do to educate, Web2 users so that they can essentially onboard into Web3. But I do think it's worth noting that I don't think a project's goal has to be, how do we attract all the Web2 gamers? I definitely believe there is a very real niche market to address in this, blockchain enabled community. And we've already seen very sustainable success stories that have been, I'd say 99% blockchain enabled people and haven't moved a large market of the Web2 base. Now, that's not going to launch a massive IP, but you look at what we're doing with Satoshiverse, and there's a lot of undertones that are appealing for people who believe in Bitcoin, believe in crypto, who associate with this story. And I think I would be willing to say the vast majority of what I would consider successful IPs in the traditional space do have very niche followings, and you probably haven't heard of them, despite the fact that they're able to run very successful businesses with a smaller fan base, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. They're not Marvel. They're not DC. And so I don't think every Web3 IP needs to set out to be the next Marvel or DC. I think if you want to be that, you can absolutely do that. But I also don't think that that's realistic, right? You can target that. You can make that your goal. But I also think there's a very addressable community and target market of people who want more content surrounding their interests, and their interests happen to be blockchain. And if you're marketing to that community, feel free to get innovative with how you use Web3. Feel free to do things that push the limits of what this space can do, because we need that too, right? We need to continue. On one side, sure, we need to convince Web2 gamers to come over and try this stuff out. But on the other side, there's some really interesting genres that are going to come purely from Web3, like some of this peer-to-peer real money wagering games that I think are going to be, a massive thing in Web3 that we're going to see, we're already seeing come to market. That's uniquely Web3, because you can't do that with traditional Web2 infrastructure. And so you're going to see more and more of this. And I think that, I don't want it to come off as, all of us are saying, hey, you have to be the next Marvel. At least from my opinion, you don't. And you can really do great products for a more niche community. I guess the only other thing I would say is that on the traditional educational front, I think we need to do as much work on educating the developers and businesses in the traditional industries about not only the use cases of Web3, but what are the business models that can work for them? Why is Web3 not going to break what they've been, leveraging for the last 10 years, game after game, year after year, items that just disappear with the game that goes away, right? All this stuff that's the bread and butter of the traditional gaming industry, and frankly, most entertainment products, can be amplified through Web3. But if we want to talk about traditional education, telling them instead of showing them, we can't really show them, because none of us are building at the scale they are, right? So we do have to tell them. We do have to be innovative about the ways that we think about major IPs launching tokens. And it's happened. We've seen success stories in the NFT space, and I think that can be extrapolated to the gaming space, and we're going to see more and more of that. But all right, so I definitely took us over time. That is my fault, but felt like I had a few things I had to say. So sorry, Spencer. I'll make it up to you next week. Thank you all for joining. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. This was, I always know as a founder, it's hard to take an hour out of your day. So I appreciate you giving us that hour, and I will release you back to your busy lives. Please feel free. I'm gonna, just quickly plug what we're building. Feel free to plug whatever you've got coming up. I think we have a winner to announce, though. So Spencer, why don't you give us the winner, and then we will. I'll finish us off.
Yes. So the winner today of 5 Satoshi's crystals is Bad Badger at Bad Badger TM. Congratulations. Please go to, if you have not already, game.legions2029.com, create a free account, and then send the Satoshiverse a DM with your account name, and we'll drop those 5 Satoshi's crystals into your account.
Congrats, Bad Badger. Nice to see you take one home, another listener who is constantly here. So thank you for joining us every week, and congratulations on that. And now, for those of you who are in the audience, again, thank you for joining. We do this every week, so please do follow the Hideout account. And you can join back the same time, same place next week, and we'll have another awesome panel. If you have not played Legions 2029, it is free. We are developing it with the community. We've been building it for the last 2.5 years, 30-person team, tons of time put into it. So come play, come check it out. Fully blockchain-enabled PC game. All the notes are up in the pinned tweet that's pinned up on the Satoshiverse pinned tweet. That's it for me. I'm going to open the floor for our two other speakers to give you guys a quick update on what's coming up for them, and then we'll wait about 30 seconds because there's a delay, and then I'll close the spaces. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you all next week. Feel free, either Todd or Taco Studios, to jump in.
For sure. So for me, I'll just say, please check out adultfantasy.io, or our Twitter handle, which you just click on my little face and you can go there, or follow me at Wanish. It's just my last name. So it's at WAHNISH. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Boy, it's been a busy year, and 2024 is going to be getting hotter. And yeah, we're ramping up for 2025. It's going to be absolutely badass. So hope to see you guys there. And thank you so much again to Satoshiverse, Nick and Spencer. I really appreciate it. I always love coming on here. This is one of the best spaces on Twitter, and I'm not just saying that. Like, it's always fun, always informative, and I always have a blast. So thank you guys again.
And thank you for having us as well. And you can check Taco Studios here on Twitter, and yeah, then you have our link tree in bio, so you can then click there and access our Discord. We do most of our things there, but we have also a broadcast channel on Telegram, and you can check all our games from our link tree. And thank you very much for having us. It's the first time, but really appreciate it, and appreciate how you run the show. And yes, I can't wait to do it again, and maybe why not do some collaborations, because I think that we share a common vision on how this space should be aided. So really, I'm looking forward to do something together. And thank you very much again.
Sounds great. Thank you both so much, and we'll end the spaces now. Thanks.